Let's take it to Stamford Bridge. This is usually one of the most anticipated games in the Premier League season. Chelsea against Man United. In fact, in England, perhaps the biggest game on that Premier League calendar is Liverpool against Man United. But if you come to Ghana, the biggest game in the Premier League is definitely Chelsea against Man United. Michael Carrick came up with some very interesting lineup in this particular game. 3 holding midfielders. Daniel, let me begin with you. Talk through this game. I mean, the first half, Chelsea absolutely dominated. As Man United sat back and tried as much as possible to keep it tight. Chelsea were wasteful. Callum Hudson-Odoi guilty of squandering some good opportunities there. But, I mean, what did you make of the entire approach in itself? This was the first half performance. Chelsea kept coming. Then the second half, of course, that was when United scored first. Jorginho, under no pressure, gives away the ball, and Jadon Sancho picks it up, confident finish, cool as you like.
Yeah, look, first of all, I have to admit that Man United escaped with a point.
Yeah.
Point number 2.
What was Jorginho doing there? That's point number 2.
Look, I'll get to that. But look, if I was a manager in modern day football, I will not be selecting Marcus Rashford. And I stand by the point. There are 1,001 players who have his qualities, but they do extra things to make them exceptional.
Yeah.
He doesn't. And I think he's a serious defensive liability to this Manchester United team. Especially
Just before you go on, look, this is the second goal of the game. This was the penalty awarded Chelsea.
Clear penalty.
Wan-Bissaka kicking Thiago. Jorginho gave away the ball for the first goal. The United goal. Steps up. Skip, hop, skip. No chance for the hair. 1-1. And then this gift from Mendy to Fred. Fred is gone. And he just gives it straight back to Mendy. Nimley was furious.
Did you see Ronaldo's reaction?
Yeah.
He says, what am I doing?
And then Chelsea had a last minute chance. Oh, boom. Your good friend.
Oh, Rudiger.
Rudiger kicked it over. But you were talking about Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, defensively he's a serious liability, especially in a game like this where we knew that per Chelsea's system they would expose the wide areas and they would dominate those areas and try and exploit Manchester United. And any decent footballer who had been given instructions and cared about his team will at least try to do something defensively. He was literally a passenger. He was walking. You would see Bruno have to enter his space and do his pressing for him or his defending for him. Reece James will have acres of space. It's 2-on-1 against between Reece James and Hakim Ziyech against Wan-Bissaka, against Telles. And Rashford will not care. He's just watching. He doesn't care at all because he's a doctor and he's the best player in the world. And he's waiting for the ball to be fed to him. If the ball is hit into space and he feels he doesn't want to run for it, then he stops and he continues walking. And that's what shocked me when Carrick had an opportunity to make a substitution. And he opted to take out Jadon Sancho, who wasn't just offensively United's best player on the day, but even from a defensive point of view in terms of the offensive players, he was also the best player. He wasn't showing any signs of fatigue, nothing at all. And then he withdrew him. And that's when the goal came, because that's when it allowed Chelsea to continue to invite pressure, whipping those crosses. Eventually, they got their goal. But look, there was a time we had an argument on this very show of how much Chelsea will miss Lukaku when he's not around. This is a prime example. They
won't miss him in every game.
Look, of course.
In fact, they won't miss him in probably 90% of the games.
Yes. But
like
in
they
games,
haven't since he got injured.
In games like this,
but the profile of matches,
you need your top strikers to be fit. You need them.
This game was begging for Lukaku, to be honest.
Chelsea did everything, but they lacked the finisher. And it just took me 12 months back to last season. This is exactly what was happening. In games where Chelsea were dropping points, you look at Tuchel's first game against Wolves, I think when Chelsea faced Aston Villa, chances, and there was nobody just to put the ball in the back of the net. And there was Lukaku, clearly unfit, of course. This is when you need your top striker fit and ready. But for Manchester United, I think this is the second game under Carrick where they've escaped defeat against Villarreal. And look, against Villarreal was David De Gea. Half-time should have been 3-0 to Villarreal. But of course, when you have quality players on the pitch and you don't take your chances, they will come back and punish you.
Yeah.
And today, again, Chelsea were undone because, of course, they should have taken their opportunities. They didn't take it. Last point, Chelsea have this knack of defending set pieces and leaving just one man behind. That is their defensive midfielder. And I don't know, clearly this is two different managers that but it's something that worries me a lot. Today it was just Jorginho, who was always the last man in the hole, and there was so much space in front of him, nobody giving him cover. So anytime the ball was hitting, United, or if United were, of course, being offensive, they just needed to press two men forward. We saw what happened in the goal. Mistake from Jorginho, and it was taken advantage of. I think it was 2 seasons ago when Martinelli scored against Chelsea. The same thing happened. It was a corner for Chelsea. It was hit long. Kante slipped on the ball, and Martinelli took it off him and went. I don't... It worries me because, first of all, the person you are leaving behind doesn't have enough pace for recovery in Jorginho. So if anything happened like what we saw, he's left exposed, and of course it goes against the team. And it also came at a point in the game where it was still goalless. I didn't think Chelsea needed to push so many men, so offensive and push so many men in front of the ball to leave him behind. Obviously, he should have done better. But that is something that you can add more men and just make sure that these situations don't find you wanting in the future.
Namely, I don't know what you made of that, especially the starting lineup of Carrick. Was that a tactical masterclass from him, would you say, or you thought? Because I mean, you were fuming before kickoff.
There was nothing tactical about that. I think. Look, this is Manchester United. No matter how bad Manchester United play in today's game or in the game yesterday, when they are going to the next game, they have to believe that they've got what it takes to go and beat any opposition.
Right.
But if you look at the setup of Michael Carrick today, he sets up the team in such a way that, look,
you will not lose.
Go out there and don't get beat. That is why I look at the first 10 minutes and I said, but for David De Gea, the game plan would have
been off the window.
Because there was no... Look, if Chelsea had taken the lead, they would have won this.
That boy, Kalum.
If Chelsea had scored first, there was no way United was going to come back from this. And then you look at the manner in which the team just could not progress the ball. The midfield of Matic, Fred, and McTominay clearly couldn't progress the ball. They just couldn't bypass the high pressing game of Chelsea.
Mm-hmm. So defensive.
So defensive minded. Tomini will not pass the ball at once. He wants to take one touch, second, third, fourth before passing. You don't bypass the press like that. You need to have variations. And your ability to turn and see danger, turn away from danger, is what makes you a very good midfielder. Look, we've watched the likes of Xavi, we watched the likes of even Sergi Busquets during his heydays.
And coach, not to cut you, just a prime example in today's game we witnessed. In the midst of a press, Chelsea hit a strong ball to Loftus-Cheek.
Yeah.
One touch of the ball,
and he's taking
just one touch
and Matic away from the game. That is your ability to see the danger and move away from it. That is what makes you an intelligent player. And then look, what actually blew my head off was the Sancho substitution, and then Michael Carrick kept Marcus Rashford in the game. Look, today everybody go and watch the game again. If that had been any other player on the goal United scored, the player would have passed the ball to Marcus Rashford, and he was clearly offside.
He was offside.
How could you, the two of you running,
intelligent,
and you show his degree? Did he get it from the?
It was an honorary degree, doctorate.
There you go.
So he's a Dr. Rashford. He's not from school.
You understand?
Honorary.
Look, it clearly showed. It showed because he went ahead of Sancho. So because, look, I've always said
that's why he didn't pass.
He's an intelligent, but he clearly saw that he was ahead of, so he now had to use him to dummy Mendy, and then pass the ball in the back.
I mean, imagine how embarrassing it would have been if United had been caught offside
on that. And nobody would have blamed Sands because the two of them, normally the one having the ball will pass to this one and then you just tap it in. Simple. Yeah. But he went. So that, in my view, was very, very problematic. Look, I have said on this show that Chelsea will not win the league if Romelu Lukaku is not an integral part. I still stand by it. You might have done so well without him.
Yeah.
But I sincerely believe that he's the indicator in that titration. Whatever reaction Chelsea seeks to titrate, without Romelu Lukaku, there'll be no end point to that titration. So yes, you've won games without him, but you will not win the league without him. Take it from me.
Yeah, you know, I get what you're saying, but there's also that school of thought that thinks that Chelsea are actually much more fluid without Romelu Lukaku. So you do have a point about Lukaku being needed in certain games, and Daniel mentioned it, and we all agree that, especially today's game,
I'm saying that
was a profile of
Burnley.
Look, an example was
Chelsea
Burnley.
Can win every game. This is a fact.
So
even if they have Lukaku,
but with him,
but you see, even when they had him, they weren't winning it.
No,
they had him. They met Juventus and got beat. Without him, they met Juventus, destroyed them. So I'm saying that there is that there are profile games that will just suit Lukaku's style.
I'm looking at.
But that is probably going to be a fraction of matches this season. Because so far this season, and the only game they haven't won.
Those fractions are the ones that do not make you win the league.
But the other ones are actually much more important.
So you see, I'm not saying the other ones without him are not important. I'm talking about lifting the trophy. And I'm saying without him.
Yeah, they need him. I mean, you can't spend 90-something million on a player and don't need him.
So now, a typical example was what we saw today.
Yeah.
If he had started that game, Chelsea won all day.